everybody, my name is Emma. I'm a member of the Watershed Stewards Program. What does it mean to be a watershed steward? Well, a steward is somebody that takes care of something that's not theirs. And in this case, my job is to take care of the watershed that I live in and that many different plants and animals call their home. Today, I'd like to share with you a very special group of critters called Benthic Macroinvertebrates. Let's break that down. So benthic means under the water, specifically on the floor of a creek or a stream. Macro means something that's large enough that you can see with your naked eye without using a microscope or a magnifying glass. And finally, an invertebrate is an animal that doesn't have a backbone. So let's head down to one of my favorite creek spots and see what we can find. All right, so now that we're down here, I'd like to take a look at the environment around us. So you'll notice that there's lots of trees and shrubs hanging over the creek. And this is a really important part of how benthic macroinvertebrates fit into the ecosystem. So all of these trees will lose their leaves in the fall and winter. The leaves will fall. They'll start to decay a little bit, and these tiny critters that live in the water will begin to eat these fallen leaves, also called detritus, and they'll break them down, and in turn, the macroinvertebrates themselves will turn into food for many different critters that also live in the creek or in the surrounding areas. All right, so here we can see two different types of habitat. Directly behind me, where the water's moving quite a bit faster, that's called a riffle. And where it gets slower and deeper here, this is called a pool. And both of these habitats support different communities of macroinvertebrates. So let's head underwater and see what we can find. First off, let's look at how macroinvertebrates breathe underwater. Check out this mayfly. Can you see its gills moving? These gills filter out dissolved oxygen from the water. Next, we can look at some different ways that macroinvertebrates eat. Remember, macroinvertebrates eat leaves and other plant material that in turn will feed other animals higher up the food chain. Here we can see another mayfly. What does it look like it is doing? Well, in places where the sun shines down on the creek, algae grows on rocks. This little mayfly is eating the algae off the rock by scraping it into its mouth. Notice how flat the body of this mayfly is. This is because they usually live in the riffle of the creek where the water is moving very fast. Their bodies lay flat against the rock so they don't get swept away by the current. Let's take a look at another macroinvertebrate. This here is a caddisfly. Caddisflies make cases out of rocks or other material in the stream to protect their soft bodies. We can see this caddisfly wading through the algae, but that isn't what they eat. Unlike the mayflies we just saw, caddisflies actually help break down leaves, or detritus, that falls into the creek. Many people think that caddisflies are eating the leaves, but they're actually eating the teeny tiny microbes that help decompose the leaf. Next, let's take a look at some black fly larvae. These particular macroinvertebrates eat by something called filter feeding. They will attach themselves onto rocks or plants where there is good water flow, and they will filter out nutrients from the water around them. Aside from looking like crazy underwater aliens and breaking down leaves and algae in the creek, benthic macroinvertebrates feed many other animals, including birds, frogs, salamanders, and of course, fish. These animals are then eaten by other larger animals in the ecosystem, sometimes humans. Can you imagine what would happen if there were no benthic macroinvertebrates in the creek? Would that affect other parts of the food web? One final fact about benthic macroinvertebrates is that scientists can use them to figure out if a stream or a creek is healthy, or if it's not. Benthic macroinvertebrates each have different levels of tolerance to pollution. In other words, some very sensitive macroinvertebrates, like the caddisflies we saw earlier, are not able to survive in water that has chemicals or is dirty. When scientists are looking at a stream to determine how healthy it is, they will look at the type and number of macroinvertebrates in the stream.
Well, that was neat. So before we head back, there's one more thing I'd like to share with you. Although benthic macroinvertebrates may be small, they're very important for supporting this entire watershed. They turn plant material into nutrients that are very important for other organisms. So next time you're down by the creek, take a couple minutes and look and see if you can find some of the critters that we saw today. And with that, let's head back.